folks. Okay, now folks, this is what you call it, Kosaila, mispronounced by Buddhists as Kalasila, where Mahamauliana was murdered. This is a petrol pump near the place, and this is a school in Kosaila where Mahamauliana was murdered, and this is a temple. Folks, Mahamauliana's place of death where he was murdered by a different sect has been discovered. So if you want to see the place, tune in till the end of the video. Now that you have seen Mahamauliana's home, that is Khushialpur, and now basically the Ashokan Stupa Hyun Sang speaks of, the village has settled on it. So basically that was Khushialpur for you, and you saw his relic stupa, that is Mahakar, and now I think you would like to see the place where Mahamauliana was murdered. I think the Buddhists would be interested in seeing the place where Mahamauliana was murdered. Now, according to Buddhist texts, Buddhist stories, Sariputra had committed suicide. He had died. And word reached the Buddha and the Sangha, and they all came to Rajgir to do the last rites and make a stupa to Sariputra. So the Buddha was residing close by, and for 7 days there was an attempt to near Rajgir, in a jungle, Mahamauliana was residing in a hut, and some Brahmins from a competing thought process, from a competing religion, they decided to kill him, and they paid some assassins, murderers, to kill him. These murderers, they attempted 7 days. 6 days they failed. When they entered his hut, they failed to see him. See, Mahamauliana's magic was well known, and his powers were well known. So for 6 days they failed to see him. But 7th day his power failed. And his power failed. They caught him and they beat him and they cut him up. But they did a mistake. They did not make sure that he had died. And they walked away. So Mahamauliana, he used all his powers, his strength, his magical strength to somehow drag himself to the Buddha, and in front of the Buddha he breathed his last. Now where did this murder take place? Now according to Buddhist texts, they say it took place in a place called Kalasila. Now there are 2 options for Kalasila. One is Kohbar and one is Kosaila. Now I'm sure you all will prefer Kosaila. The problem with Kohbar is the next to it, just a kilometer away, is Satmas. Sat means 7. So basically, see, wherever he died, it will be named according to the story, because later on these stupas became pilgrimage spots for the Buddhists when India was Buddhist. it became it. They were pilgrimage spots. So anyway, Satmas is next to Kobar, and Kobar sounds similar to Kala Pinaka, Kala Sila. Now, the second option is, now Satmas is very important because there were 7 days they attempted to kill him. Satmas. 7 attempts to kill him. But Kala Sila has got chutney next to it. Chutney means to put aside, to forget, to reject. So basically this is also important because when they killed him, when they attacked him, they beat him, they stabbed him, they left him for dead. But they did not check properly whether he was dead or alive. So that is chutney. What do you call it? Check out the photos. First, check out the satellite picture of Kala Sila and chutney, and then check out the satellite picture of what do you call it? Kobar and Satmas. Kobar, the country, I mean the place, and Satmas were exact spot where he was murdered on the 7th day. But I put my wager on Kala Sila and chutney. I put my wager on Kala Sila and chutney. Check out the satellite pictures and the photos of the places, how they look today. Thank you. Folks, this is the first for me. I am discovering all this. Now the Buddhists, whenever I come to your country, I deserve a free holiday with my family. Okay? Thanks. At that time, see, this is about the death of Mahamoggallana. At that time, Mahamoggallana lived alone in a forest hut at Kala Sila. Now remember folks, Kala Sila. Actually the word is Kobar. The place's name is Kobar. After his encounter with Mara, he knew that the end of his days was near. Having enjoyed the bliss of liberation, he now felt the body to be just an obstruction and burden. Hence, he had no desire to make use of the faculties and keep the body alive for the rest of the aeon. Yet, when he saw the brigands approaching, he just absented himself by using his supernormal powers. See, the brigands were coming to kill him. The gangsters arrived at an empty hut, and although they searched everywhere, they could not find him. They left disappointed but returned on the following day. On 6 executive days, Moggallana escaped from them in the same way. His motivation was not the protection of his own body but saving the brigands from the fearsome karmic consequence of such a murderous deed, necessarily leading to rebirth in the hells. He wanted to spare them such a fate by giving them time to reconsider and abstain from their crime, but their greed for the promised money was so great that they persisted and returned even on the 7th day. Now this is very important. 7th day in Kala Sila. The Kala Sila is the place where he was when he was murdered. Now the 7th day. 7th day. Then their persistence was rewarded, for on that 7th day, Moggallana suddenly lost the magic control over his body, a heinous deed committed in days long past. of his own death of his own parents had not yet been expiated, and the ripening of that old karma confronted him now, just as others are suddenly confronted by a grave illness. Moglana realized that he was now unable to escape. The brigands entered, knocked him down, smashed all his limbs, and left him lying in his blood. Being keen on quickly getting their reward and also somewhat ill at ease about their dastardly deed, the brigands left at once without a further look. But Moglana's great physical and mental strength was such that his vital energies had not yet succumbed. He regained consciousness and was able to drag himself to the Buddha, that is in Hathyama. There in the Master's presence, at the holiest place of the world, at the source of the deepest peace, Moglana breathed his last. So, what do you call it? The inner peace in which he dwelt since he attained to sainthood. So, folks, this is Mahamoglana's death. Where did it take place? He was residing in a forest hut at Kalasila, and on the 7th day of the attack, the robbers attacked him for 7 days, and on the 7th day he lost his magical powers. On the 7th day, then their persistence was rewarded, for on that 7th day Moglana suddenly lost the magic control over his body. Now let's see where it is in satellite pictures, folks. See, here is a satellite picture of Khushialpur, that is according to Huensang Kyulikia, where Moglana was born. Mahamoglana was born, that is Khushialpur. And this is, see, they had just made a stupa to what do you call it, this Sariputra, and according to Huensang, Sariputra was born close by Khushialpur. See, Khushialpur is there. Sariputra was born close by to Khushialpur is Kodiara, which Huensang mispronounces as Kalapinaka. And this is Karhara, is what do you call it? Sariputra's house. Karhara means to wail, that is where his mother wailed after his death. What do you call it? So Sariputra had died 2 weeks before Mahamoglana, and what do you call it, he and Buddha had come to make his Sariputra's what do you call it, stupa, which is up here. Sariputra's stupa, relic stupa, is here, and this is where he was burnt, Hemra, where he was burnt. So the episode of killing, what do you call it, Mahamoglana must have happened nearby. So see, Kohobar sounds similar to what do you call it? Kohobar sounds similar to Kalasila. Kohobar sounds similar to Kalasila. So this is the place where what do you call it? He, and on the 7th day, Satmas, 7 days, Satmas means 7th, what do you call it, Eon, 7th Eon. So it was on the 7th day that he was killed, Satmas. See, a place, a person of the stature of what do you call it, Mahamoglana dying, will have the name will change that of that place according to the story of Satmasi, because you know pilgrims those days would go to these places and they had to know where they were going, to ask around ki I want to pay homage to so. So this is Satmas. On the 7th day he was killed here, and it is the story says the murderers, they left him and he somehow dragged himself to where the Buddha stayed. The Buddha stayed here in Hatyama. In Hatyama, where what you call it, there is even today there is a stupa. It is the oldest brick structure I have come across, where King Bimbisara made a stupa on the spot where he met the Buddha after the latter gained enlightenment. So this is Hatyama, and when Buddha would come to Nalanda, what do you call it? See, all this took place on outside the southern wall of Nalanda. He would stay in Hatyama. So the Buddha would stay. So from Satmas, he somehow dragged himself to Hatyama, and in front of what do you call it, the Buddha, he breathed his last. But there is a very interesting place just next to Satmas. There is a lake. There is a lake next to Satmas. There is a lake. See, Mukti Dham. Satmas is there, and this lake is Mukti Dham. Mukti Dham means to give someone, mukti. Mukti from the sin he created from his previous birth. See, Mukti Dham means to give freedom from sin created from a previous birth. So this is your what do you call it, Mukti Dham, and check out the pictures of Satmas where Mahamoggallana died. See, the second option of Mahamoggallana's murder is he was in Kalasila. Now Kalasila, what do you call it, you have, see, this is Chutney. Chutney means to put aside, put aside. So when they were murdering him, they finally left him alive. They sort of killed him. They thought they killed him, but they left him alive. That is Chutney. They did not, what do you call it, they sort of, his death sentence, they sort of put it aside, like by leaving him alive. They did not check whether he was dead or alive. So Kalasila is Kosaila. Kalasila is Kosaila, so Chutney. And this happened next to Kodiara and Karara is where Sariputra lived, and Sariputra's name was Tetaria. What do you call it, which Buddhists have mispronounced as Upatissa. Tetaria because he was the third in his home. The third. See, he had 3 brothers and 3 sisters. That's why he was called Tetaria. And that is his relic, stupas, Sariputras. So basically when Mahamoggallana was murdered, he had come with Buddha to make the relic stupa, etc. And see, the relic stupa is just nearby. So this is where Chutney is the place where the second option after Satmas, where Mahamoggallana most probably was. Folks, okay, now folks, this is Kosaila. Kosaila, which the Buddhists have mispronounced and mistranslated as Kalasila, near Rajgir. So according to Buddhist texts, folks, Mahamoggallana was murdered by the opposite sect in Kosaila. He was in a jungle. He was meditating alone in a hut. Basically, this happened 2 weeks after Sariputra's death. Folks, actually what happened was the Buddha had come with his whole entire entourage, his Sangha, to, what do you call it, enshrine Sariputra's ashes in a stupa. That is in Tetaria. Tetaria is Sariputra's ash stupa. So, since Mahamoggallana was murdered just 2 weeks after Sariputra's death, that means he was camping over there, involved in Sariputra's last rites, etc. So he was murdered in what do you call it, Kosaila. Actually, the village name is Kosaila. The country, but he was living a bit outside the village. That is Chhatni. Chhatni. My first option was Satmas, like which I showed you in the satellite picture. But more accurate than Satmas is Chhatni, because Kosaila is ditto Kalasila. There is very hardly any difference in the mistranslation. So mispronunciation. So basically, Chutney means to what do you call it? To someone got saved. Someone got saved. That is Maugliana got saved. He was not killed. Chutney means he was put aside, and basically, but he had been attacked. So basically, and I suspect what do you call it? Satmas is the place where they burned the body, they cremated the body, or basically there is a crematorium where Sariputra was cremated in just a kilometer north of his house. He could have been cremated in the same crematorium because there is a stupa over there. So, folks, this is your Kosaila, your Kalasila, where Mahamaugliana was brutally murdered by the other group. He somehow he was left alive. They thought they had left him as dead, but he was alive. He somehow dragged himself to where the Buddha was, and he breathed his last. So, folks, enjoy the video. I hope you enjoyed the video, and thank you for